Getting your property ready to rent can be stressful, and there's a ton of questions because it makes a difference whether you choose to do one thing or another. There's expense, time, effort, and stress wrapped up in all of it. So this video is a rapid fire, my best quick tips for make readies. And a make ready is when you make a property available ready to rent, and you're going to be touring prospective tenants through it and hoping that they choose it. I'm Jennifer Rollins, landlord, educator, advocate, and broker of One Focus Property Management. Today I'm bringing you make-ready tips. These are quick little tips that help guide your decisions when it comes to make-readies. Quick disclaimer, I am talking about properties here in my tertiary market of Williamsport, Lock Haven, Danville, Pennsylvania. So these are smaller markets with old housing stock. If you're in a newer market with newer housing stock, then there could be different standards. So if you're in, one of these Northeast markets like ours, this is probably pretty good advice. But if you're in an Arizona market, maybe Phoenix, that could be a little bit different. So keep that in mind as you listen to these tips. Let's talk paint. Paint is something we get a lot of questions on. What color to paint your rental property? Easy. I call it grayish. It's a combination between gray and beige. Now, this has been in trend for a while. I expect in the next 3 or so years to see that maybe changing a little bit, but we're still using it. The color on the wall behind me here, this is grayish. It's actually a color called Gray Moire. It's a Pratt & Lambert color, but you've seen, agreeable gray and all those different ones. All of those are basically fine. What I like about grayish is that in different lights, it looks different. So it can look more modern, it can look cooler, it can look warmer. It looks great against white trim and natural wood trim, including natural hardwood floors. So what type of paint to do? One, high quality paint. Use good paint. It should be retailing for above $60 a gallon. That's hard to stomach. So you can find a way to buy it discounted. We have great relationships and get great pricing on paint, but the quality of the paint will yield, the higher the quality of the paint, the lower labor cost to paint it, and the longer lifespan you're going to get out of that paint. It's going to look better. It's going to wear better. It's all around the best thing going. It is a sin to use cheap paint. Now, as far as the type of paint to use. So in our kitchens and baths, for rental properties, I think it's a really great idea to go with semi-gloss on the walls. I don't mind a semi-gloss on the ceiling and white in those. And then of course your trim would be in semi-gloss. And the rest of the home, non-wet areas, I use an eggshell or a satin finish on the walls and a semi-gloss on the trim. This not using flat paint is really important in rental properties because flat paint, every time you touch it, a mark gets left behind. So it's really tough to kind of weather normal wear and tear. We want paint that can be scrubbed, that can be cleaned, and is actually protecting the surface that it's covering. 2 more tips on paint. Don't ever paint natural wood trim. Don't do it. So sometimes though we see natural wood trim that's been sloppily painted on several times. I feel it is more worth the investment to clean that paint, sand it off that wood, make sure it's stained and sealed really nicely. But painting over natural trim is something that I find that you usually end up regretting in terms of longevity, of looking nice, and the condition of the property. And the last advice I have when it comes to painting is don't just hand a paintbrush to anybody and expect them to do it and get a good result. The key to painting and getting a good result is experience. You need to have a steady hand and know what you're doing. But the preparation is everything. So how you prepare the walls, how you fill those nail holes, how you prime surfaces that need to be primed, using caulk, using things like that are really, really important. So if you're going to be painting your own rental properties, do yourself a favor and invest in some education, maybe with a professional painter, so that you can get really incredible results. It matters. When tenants tour your property and the property is vacant, the eye goes to any error. So any error in the paint, a little bit of wall paint on the ceiling, things like that. The eye goes right to it because there's nothing else to see in the space. So we want to make sure it's looking really clean and really neat. Let's talk flooring. My best tips for flooring. So, hardwood floors. Hardwood floors are amazing, and I think that a lot of investors get scared about the upkeep and refinishing. I'm here to tell you, the cost to refinish hardwood floors ranks right now right along there with installing carpet and laminate flooring. So I find that the cost is around the same, sometimes just a tick more. That's okay because you're going to get far better value out of a refinished hardwood floor than carpet or LVT. So I encourage, when there is good hardwood floors, make the investment in protecting them and getting them up to par, and then use them. You'll get a lot longer life out of them than other products. So in our wet areas, we want to see a vinyl product or something like that. So kitchens, baths, laundries, we want to see vinyl, or that I've been saying LVT or LVP. That stands for luxury vinyl tile or luxury vinyl plank. And you've seen this. This is very popular. It's a product that's gotten a lot of attention. So we want to use those in the wet spaces because when water gets on things, it can destroy it. So we don't clearly want carpeting in those areas. And if you still have carpeting in kitchens and bathrooms, get rid of it. Tenants hate it. It's unsanitary and they just don't like it. But you want to make sure that the products you're putting in those wet spaces can withstand occasional exposure to water. You don't want them to be getting swollen or the finishes to be flaking off. So the key to that is when you get a vinyl product, an LVT or an LVP, making sure it's vinyl the whole way through and doesn't have any wood product in it. Now you can get thin LVT and you can get thick. I advise for somewhere in the middle. Do not go with the thinnest. The thickest is really much more appropriate for commercial settings, but somewhere in that middle, like 12 mil area, is a great place for rental properties. Sheet vinyl and those peel and stick vinyl tiles are almost gone. So I do see sheet vinyl being used for smaller spaces quite often, but larger spaces, I really see people going to the LVT and LVP. For the cost and the wear, it's the absolute right decision. Now, I see people, especially DIY folks, who use those 1 foot by 1 foot peel and stick vinyl tiles. It's very attractive looking, right? You can buy a pack of them, stick them on that kitchen floor, and you've got a new floor in just, less than an afternoon. Don't waste your money. Don't do it. It's really not the thing to do. It's going to make your tenants upset. It will wear horribly. It's an incredible waste of money. And it really sends the wrong signal. So we want to stop using those peel and stick tiles. Other suggestion I have regarding carpet that I see happening in markets like mine is you want to invest in good carpet install. You do not want to go as cheap as possible on your carpet install. And as cheap as possible often means those big box stores that offer installation from local contractors. And I always say, well, why would those local contractors take those really cheap jobs from Lowe's and deal with this? Well, probably because they're not that good at getting work on their own. And so I find that when those big box stores contract out the installation, that the installation goes wrong. And by that, I mean the carpet is not kicked tight, trimmed right. It does not look good. It might look good the second they're done, but once people are living on it, it starts to get those little waves in the carpet, which makes the carpet wear down so much faster. It's a tripping hazard and it doesn't make anybody happy. And so it's also, then you got to get a vendor in to what we call kick it tight, to use a carpet kicker to get those wrinkles out, but the damage could already be done. So paying for quality installation on carpet will yield to a longer life of the carpet. So there's different types of flooring in different rooms, right? So we have the vinyl maybe in the kitchen, we might have the hardwood in the living room, and we might have carpeting in the bedrooms. And that's fine. I have a rule of thumb though, because flooring is one of those things that if you just do a room at a time and do it in different flooring types, the house can start to look a little crazy. And so I have a rule that from no matter where you are in the home, where you look around, you should be able to see no more than 3 types of flooring. And so what that means is your kitchens and bathrooms could have a type, your bedrooms could have a type, and your living areas could have a type. But if you start segmenting it down even further, the house starts to lose some quality points and it just doesn't look right. Let's talk about cleaning and preparation. So cleaning, we usually don't think about the outside of the property. Pressure washing the property, if that's appropriate for the exterior surface, can really make a big impact in curb appeal, making it look attractive and keeping the property value high. So I always advise to make sure that the property is fully clean inside but also outside. Cleaning on the interior is exceptionally important. And I always say you have to clean everything, and this is different than the way you clean your house on the weekends. So this is a very, very deep clean, done best when the property is completely empty, because you want to get inside, outside, underneath, and behind every single thing in the house. So you want to pull those appliances. You want to get on the top shelves of the closets and clean those. Tops of door frames, pulling down the light fixtures, cleaning the blinds. Some things that people miss: the drip pans on the stove, those are often not cleaned, or the surface underneath the burner level of the stove. Switch plates, so where the light switches are and outlets, often those are areas that are dirty. Around doorknobs and handles, so where people grab constantly and oils and dirts from their hands transfer, we want to hit those really well. Thresholds are another area that sometimes the threshold in a door that could be cleaned to make a really nice impact. Light fixtures and blinds. Light fixtures are one of those things that, we install them and we forget about them and we replace the bulbs, but a light fixture can really betray the age and datedness of a property. So I say, when you're doing a turnover, look at your light fixtures. Make sure they look modern and neat and bright, and maybe switch those up. Blinds are another place that can have a huge impact. Providing blinds is the right thing to do, because otherwise the tenant's going to need to get security and privacy another way, and that can involve drilling holes into your trim. However, just because the blinds are there doesn't mean that's good enough. They do need to be clean and in working order. And I find with those 1-inch vinyl mini blinds, it's often easiest just to replace them. The time involved in cleaning them is out of proportion to how much they cost to replace. Some other overlooked items include bulbs, light bulbs, making sure that all the light bulbs are installed in working order and look good. Window screens. Windows should have screens. Tenants should be able to open windows and protect from having bugs and birds and anything else coming into the property. If your property is very old, like some of ours are, getting window screens remade for these historic windows can be really challenging, but they do sell fairly affordably. Window screen inserts that expand to the size of the window. You can find them on Amazon or online. If you need those to provide those, you should. Let's talk health and safety. So there's a couple health and safety items that you need to think about when you get a property ready to rent. So making sure all your smoke detectors are installed in working order and have fresh batteries. If that smoke detector is older than 10 years old and you can tell, simply pull it down, look at the part that meets the ceiling, and there'll be a month and day there. If it's older than 10 years, you really need to get rid of it. Otherwise, make sure it's installed in working order and has fresh batteries. Our door locks. Make sure your entry doors have deadbolts and that those deadbolts are not double keyed. Double keyed is when you need a key both from the exterior and the interior to operate the lock. What we're looking for is where a key goes in the exterior and there's a thumb turn on the interior. I know some people in the houses that they occupy choose to make these double keyed. It's a huge health and safety risk to do that, because in the event of a fire, you would have a keyed lock between safety and the person. And they do this because there's maybe glass on the door and they're scared that in a burglary situation that's what's going to occur. I still advise you have a thumb turn on all of these, and at least where we operate, it's a codes requirement. You can't have those double keyed locks. It actually wouldn't be permitted. Talking about keys, another safety item is to make sure all the keys in the house are keyed alike. So if there's a front door, a back door, a basement door, a garage, get those all keyed alike. It's a lot nicer for the tenant to have one key. It's nicer for you as the owner. And that's really something that should be done running a successful rental business. Handrails. Make sure your handrails are up to code. So you'll need handrails, generally speaking, anytime there's a height difference of 18 inches or more. So think about your handrails in basements, from the first floor to the basement, from first floor to second floor to third floor, etc. And then also out off of your porch and things like that. So that's where you're typically going to see handrails and need to make sure they're good. And the last one would be your smoke detectors. We call them smokes for short, but smoke detectors and carbon monoxide detectors. So here in our area, our municipalities tend to use the IPMC, or the International Property Maintenance Code, and that'll say for residential rentals, what's most appropriate is to have interconnected smoke detectors on each level of living. So let's talk about a typical single-family house. You would put a smoke detector in the basement, maybe in the first floor hallway, just not in the kitchen, and then in the second floor hallway. If there's an attic, in the attic as well. The requirement here is that they be interconnected and that at least the basement be hardwired. So hardwired means it's hardwired directly into the electric supply. It's not supplied simply by a battery. Now this can be accomplished with an electrician running wires to all these different places. If you're in historic properties like we are, we use radio transmitter controlled ones. So they do sell interconnected but wireless smoke detectors. So you can install them without all the wire molding. And then when one goes off, they'll all go off. In addition to this, now if there's fuel burning, those should be smoke and CO detecting. If the bedrooms then need to have battery operated smoke detectors, I advise to use the 10-year sealed lithium battery ones, the ones that you have to replace the battery each year. If you think about it, you keep it for 10 years. By the time you've replaced the battery 10 times, the difference between a $30 detector and a $10 detector all of a sudden doesn't matter so much. So I like to see the 10-year sealed lithiums. They're safer, and those would be installed in the bedrooms. So keeping your health and safety items all in check is really important. I'm gonna wrap up my Make Ready tips by bringing you my contractor rule of thumb. I call it QCC. And QCC stands for quality, convenience, and cost. And the rule is you don't get all three with a contractor, or at least it's very, very rare. So what that means is there's three different components to how a contractor is going to do a job. The quality of the work. Is it done to spec? Is it done with quality materials? Is it done well? Does it look good when it's done? That's quality. No one wants to compromise on quality. We want good quality work. The second, C, is for convenience. So convenience means, is the contractor easy to communicate with? Are they responsive? Are they polite? Are they respectful in the home? And do they do the job on the timetable that is agreed upon? Because that's really the convenience factor, right? We're making sure we get the job done in that amount of time. Now, this is a tough one and something that contractors get a lot of complaints about. It's often the one I compromise on. So if I can only have 2 out of 3, I'll usually go for quality and cost and try to manage that convenience aspect. But that's what convenience is. And I've kind of spoiled the lead, but the next C in QCC is cost. And we know contractors, some of them cost a little, some of them cost a lot. I believe that when you get low cost, you're going to likely be giving up quality or convenience or both. So this is sometimes a helpful framework to think about when you're trying to make a decision about a contractor to hire to do work on either your property or your rental properties, is when you evaluate different contractors to think about the QCC and how each of these contractors shapes up on that. And if you're going to forego something, if you're going to forego convenience and pick a contractor that's a little less convenient, but high quality and great prices, then you get to make a plan to overcome those weaknesses in the plan, to keep them on track and to try to make that work better for you. It's not a perfect solution, but the QCC rule of thumb is something I like to use when I'm picking vendors and trying to evaluate how they perform for us. I know it's stressful trying to get a property ready. Because you have vacancy, you're not getting any income. There's a lot of pressure to get it ready for the next tenant. So hopefully you can use these tips and tricks. If you ever have questions on any of it, let me know. I'd love to help you out with any insight I can provide. Be sure to subscribe to these videos. You don't want to miss a single one. And don't forget to check out our Facebook group just for Pennsylvania landlords. The link's in the description.